In this video, we are going to see how we can create database, table, and insert values in SQL Server Management Studio. Before starting the discussion, I will go ahead and open the SSMS. To open, I will go to the Start button and write SSMS. The first one here is the SQL Server Management Studio. That will take some time. Okay. Here it will ask you to connect to the database engine, but if you want to connect to other services, you can pick whichever you want to connect. But for now, I'm using database engine. A server name. If you have multiple server name, it will show up in this drop-down menu, and you can pick the one which you are looking to connect. But if you don't have one and it is your first time, you need to browse for more and choose your server. To connect to the local host, you can type localhost. Now I'm connecting to the localhost. Here, authentication mode. We have different mode. And the window authentication is using the window login information and connect to the database. Here, SQL Server authentication, which require a username and a password. You have to provide those information, then it will connect to the instance. I will connect, so my instance is here. Today, our plan is to create a database. Before creating a database, what is database? Database is a collection of tables that store a specific set of structured data. Those tables have relationships. To create a database, there are two ways. The first one is right-clicking in databases and select new. I will select new, and there is a database name, which we need to provide a name for our database. Let's say my first database owner. I will keep the default. Here, two database files. One is MDF file and the second one is LDF file. MDF file stands for main database file and contain all the information in a database, whereas LDF is a log database file, record all the transactions and changes to the database. The LDF is critical for disaster recovery. Here we can change the initial size, whichever we want values, and the logical name or the path where this file is going to be stored. But if you don't want to change anything and accept the default, go ahead and click OK. That's what I'm doing now. Here, under databases, my first database created. As you see here, my first database. Is that simple? I hope it is. So, I will continue the second way creating database using SQL command. To write SQL command, I will click New Query, and when the new query window pops up, like this one is a new query window, here I will type the code. I will use a keyword create database and specify the database name. Let's create a database called sales. This is how you will provide the name. So select the code and execute. To execute, we have two ways. One, pressing F5 from our keyboard, or clicking execute button here. I will click execute. Command completed successfully. That means our create database statement executed. So refresh the databases. Here the sales database created. Here we see how we created in two different ways. Now let's move to a table. Before creating a table, what's table? Tables are a database object that contain all the data in a database. The data is logically organized in a row and column format, which is similar to a spreadsheet. To create a table, there are also two ways. The first one is coming here in Object Explorer and select whichever database you want to create a table in. So I'm going to select my first DB. Inside here, I have tables. When I expand tables, now I don't have any table here. To create a table, right click and new table. Here it's asking a column name, data type, and null constraint. For the column name, let's say ID column, and the data type, what type of data I'm going to store in ID. I'm planning to store integer, so I will pick int. And allow nulls, if it is ticked, it's allowing null. But for ID column, I'm not planning to allow null, so I will unselect. The second column, let's say full name. For full name, I'm going to store a string value. So for the string, I have option nvarchar. I will choose nvarchar, and the limit of character is 50. I can increase or decrease based on how many characters I want to store. So let's say 80 characters. And here, the third column in here, allow nulls. I can leave it as it is ticked. That means I'm allowing null value to be stored in full name. Let's save this one. It will ask a table name. Let's provide a table name. My first table. Click OK. Then let's come to my first database and tables. Then refresh the tables. Here my first table created. Let's see now how we can create a table using SQL command. To create a table using SQL command, I will type a create keyword, then table. Now I have to provide a table name, employees. I provided my table name. Now open a bracket and close. At the middle, let's provide the column name, the data type, and the constraint as previously we did using a graphical interface. So column name, employee ID. What type of data I'm gonna store? Integer. Let's do this column, identity column. If I specify identity column, I have to provide a seed and increment. Providing 1, 1, that means the seed is starting from 1, and for each new record, it's adding 1. And I will make this field a primary key. So to make it a primary key, I will type primary key. For the second column, let's create a first name column. First name, I'm gonna store a string. So let's specify varchar. At the middle, I have to provide a number of characters I'm going to store. So I would say a maximum of 30 characters here. And third column, last name, varchar. That's the same like first name. I'm going to store 30 characters max. And let's put a constraint here. I'm saying not null. That means I'm not allowing this field to store a null value. The fourth column, email, also a string. So let's say varchar, 40 character for email. This is how to write a create table command. So I will select my code. Then every time when you are creating SQL object, you have to check into which database you are creating. So now I'm using my first database. If I want to create this table in different database, I will click the drop down here and select the database I want to create. For example, employees table, I want to create it in sales database. So I will choose sales and execute it. Command completed successfully. That means no error. So let me go to sales database and expand tables. Under tables, employees table created. This is a second way to create a table. Now, let's insert values in our tables. Let's insert a few records in this employee tables. To insert records, we have to use insert keyword into my table here. So my table is DBO employees. I can drag and drop the tables here. DBO is nothing, but it's a schema. Then I will say values. Inside this bracket, I will specify my records. Here, we can specify the column name which we want to insert data for. So for example, let's specify the column name, first name. The intelligence by itself helping me here. So I can click this one or type like first name. I will also insert last name. I can click here or type by myself last name. Either way works fine. The last column, email. As you see here, I didn't select the employee ID because since I make an identity column, the value is going to be inserted by itself automatically. We don't need to specify or insert value for that field. So a value here for first name, let's say Smith, and last name, Joe, and email address. Let's use the first letter of first name and last name at gmail.com. This is a record which I want to insert. So I will select the code and execute. One row affected. That means successfully the record inserted. To see the record, I will do select all, star means all, from my table. I can drag and drop my table. Select this statement and execute. One record inserted. First, Smith Joy. To see, this one is a text format of showing the result, but if I want a grid, I will select the grid and execute again. This is a grid format. If I want to insert multiple record, what we can do is, for example, let's select this one to save some time and insert record. For example, first name Kim, last name Gray, email first name first letter K Gray at gmail.com. To insert another record, I will open and close a bracket after putting a comma. So I will insert the third record. Let's say David first name and last name James, D James at gmail.com. If we have other records, we can put a comma and continue. We can insert like that whichever record we have. So to execute, I will select the code and click execute. Two rows affected. To see the result, execute the select statement. Here, three records inserted. As I told you previously, employee ID is identity column, which have a seed of 1 and incrementing by 1. So this is all for today. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.